Hey everyone, Adam Kanakin here at ILEETA 2022. With me, Anthony Bandiero. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Thank you.
This is exciting. I haven't had a lot of legal conversations this week yet. Obviously, I was telling you offline there, I was talking with Fawn Clean, with Forest Science, and basically you, man. You're a practicing attorney?
Yes, well, and I say practicing in the sense that I focus on instruction. So I'm a full-time search and seizure instructor for police officers. I have a company called Blue to Gold, law enforcement training. Some of you guys may know this. It's the largest search and seizure trainers in the nation. But when I say practice, my practice is teaching cops.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm glad you're here because obviously this is the best conference for that, right?
Yep.
Where I say this all the time. You get out to the instructors who then have the opportunity to kind of spread that to as many people as possible, right? So you're here teaching this week. What's the class that you're teaching?
So I'm teaching emerging legal trends, and I think people are like I had the first class yesterday, and they left like blown away because they're doing things that they never even knew were unlawful, right? And that's what's kind of tricky about this is that there are some court cases coming out that are being very strict on cops and how they're performing their jobs, and quite frankly, things that are routine that cops have been doing for a long time. But the game has changed, whether it's because of the body cams or high-profile incidents. Cops are going to courts, and they're not getting qualified immunity like they used to in the past. So that's kind of what I'm teaching. Some pretty hot topic things that are going on.
Yeah, when you said current changes and things that are happening in law enforcement, the first thing that jumped in my mind was qualified immunity. Yes,
and if I can share a couple things.
Please do.
So people ask me all the time, "Hey, Anthony, is qualified immunity going away?" And I say, no, it's not. Some states like Colorado and New Mexico have eliminated or reduced qualified immunity. But the reality is that you don't need qualified immunity to go away to feel the effects of the political change out there in your courts. I mean, courts are not supposed to be political, but of course, all human beings are political to a degree. And what's happening out there is courts are denying qualified immunity on a scale that, this is empirical. I don't have a study on this, but from my viewpoint as a lawyer, they're denying qualified immunity on a massive scale. And I'd like to give you a case example. Yeah, please do. A case that just came out called Morel versus French, First Circuit, 2021. Here's what happened. Briefly, boyfriend and girlfriend, they broke up, but they remained friends. A few months later, the ex-boyfriend is at the ex-girlfriend's house. They're just hanging out, and a text message comes over her phone from another guy. He gets upset. I think he's trying to get things back together. He gets upset. He steals her phone. Could be a felony in some states. It happened in the home. It could maybe devalue the phone and so forth. So he takes the phone. He leaves. She calls the cops. The cops arrive. It's around 4 o'clock in the morning at this point, and they're like, "All right, where does he live?" I think they even ping the phone, kind of show that it's at his house. They go to the house, do what's called a knock and talk, right? This is where cops try to have a consensual encounter at somebody's house. So far, so good. He opens up the window. He sees the cops out there. What does he do? Shuts it, doesn't answer. They leave. Sarge pulls up. Sarge, what do you want us to do? Get back up there and bang on his door. Tell him to come out. We're going to arrest him, right? We have probable cause and so forth. Right? They go up there, banging on the door. No answer. Leave. Bang on his window, his bedroom. Leave. Come back. Bang on it again. Hey, come on, French. We're going to arrest you, right? Finally, he comes out. He gets arrested. He sues. Sues for what? Violating his curtilage. Now, curtilage is one of those weird kind of concepts that not a lot of cops really understand, and I teach in a kind of a funny way with traffic lights like red, yellow, green. But the point is the First Circuit found not only was those three knock and talks all illegal, no qualified immunity. That they said a reasonable police officer in 2021 would have recognized that what they were doing to this guy's house was unlawful. Think about that. There are people watching this right now that I guarantee you are cops that are thinking to themselves, I did just that scenario last night. And that's the game that's being played out there. So my mission in emerging legal trends and when I travel the country is to get cops to really appreciate the constitutional law, but also realize that they have to get it right. So and you'll have to forgive me because I'm Canadian. I try to stay up to date on as much American law as I can, obviously because we function a lot here in the U.S. Totally.
But so with curtilage, so my guess then is after that initial knock, interaction or whatever that was, that was kind of the end of it. Everything that followed after that is what the issue became, right?
Right. And just to make sure, I don't, some viewers may be interested in law enforcement, I threw out a word curtilage, and even like some cops have. I ran into some cops who said their academy didn't even talk about curtilage, and that's crazy to me for this. But curtilage is that area around the home, the space around the home that is connected with the home, backyards, carports, patios, and they're protected like the home itself. So the court said that first knock and talk, hey, that's fine. He was up, the lights were on. He just took a person's cell phone. Maybe he has an explanation. Maybe, hey, he can say he wants to, resolve this issue. Hey, that's my phone. I bought it. It's in my name. Hey, look. Okay, then maybe we don't make any arrests. But the point is that when he made it clear that he did not want to come to that door, cops cannot just pound on that door and basically, call it an investigation. Because here's the problem. There is no exigency. There's no urgency. There's nothing pressing there. I mean, yeah, I guess he could destroy the phone, but that doesn't get you breaking on the guy's door. And because the cops have no urgency, and because he made it clear he doesn't want to talk, it's over. They're supposed to leave his property, go get a warrant, and do it that way. That's his choice. That's the choice he's making. He's basically saying, hey, put a judge between me and you, and go let him figure it out, or her.
So what was the complete outcome there? Like, do we have an outcome, or is it now in like
the Supreme Court type deal? No, the outcome is that no qualified immunity. I do not have an exact number of what they paid, but from my experience, that case cost that agency hundreds of thousands of dollars, because not only is he going to get paid, French, right, for that violation, and that's not your viewers out there be like, well, Anthony, come on, is that $1 million, hundreds of thousands of dollars? It's not necessarily he's going to get that kind of money. It's his lawyers. Because the way it works in the civil system is that, and maybe this is in Canada too, that if a cop violates somebody's rights and does not get qualified immunity, the taxpayer pays his attorney. Well, just as well as I do, that these bills add up very quickly. If you go to Supreme Court, not uncommon for it to be millions of dollars in legal fees, for example. That's a lot of money. So I'm on this kind of roadshow here at ILEETA, and when I do our training online, and I do webinars every single week for free, my mantra is just all about this thing I call legal survival. Cops and as a former police officer myself, our profession is very good on physical survival. I like to say you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a police instructor that teaches running and gunning, right? Driving, SWAT, guns, tactics. But what we need to do a better job is on these legal issues, because when was the last time a cop actually got training on stuff like this, or on entering homes for under, how do you get into homes, right? I mean, they used to call it community caretaking, and again, on the American side of the house, the Supreme Court says that this concept of community caretaking does not apply to homes. So how do you get into homes? And it's all these questions that cops have, and they're kind of confused, because they probably weren't trained properly, and that's my mission, is to get them unconfused, and so they understand what's going on out there, so they do not get sued like this, or if they do get sued, they win, because they did the right thing.
I think one of the biggest challenges is there's so many things that change in law.
Yeah. Right?
And there's a lot of stuff that stays very constant for a very long time, but like you had said, there's new case law coming out all the time, and if you're an agency and you're not staying 100% up to date with it, you get these huge gaps, and that gap doesn't get rectified through training. And now, like you had said, you have officers that are functioning under the impression that I'm doing everything right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's agencies out there that are functioning under that premise right now, and nothing's gone wrong, right? Nothing bad's happened yet.
Yep.
And it's like, we see that there has to, we said this happens in all types of training, but essentially this industry is the most reactive industry in the world.
Yep.
There's not one proactive bone in our body.
We've been doing business this way is the number one excuse for what you're talking about.
So your thoughts on how can instructors, well, obviously instructors that like come to ILEETA get face-to-face with you and understand these concepts. I mean, sometimes they understand them, sometimes it still goes right over our heads, right? But how do we start? What's the first step in making sure that all of the agencies are up to date on all of this stuff?
So let me clarify a couple things. I've had the privilege of training over 30,000 cops in legal issues, whether it's online, in person, a mix of those. And I got to tell you that, we do hear a lot, hey, case law is changing all the time. I like to say it's not necessarily changing, it's being clarified. This knock and talk issue is not earth-shattering. Cops should have known that, probably just intuition. Like, they should have been like, yeah, this is, if they understood curtilage and understood some basic rules, they would have recognized that, yeah, this is probably not right. Even though we've been doing it, it's probably not right. And which goes back to my second part of your question, is that at Blue to Gold we have this training philosophy and this class called Advanced Search and Seizure. But the goal of that class is purely to get cops to know how to make good case law. If these are principles, so like I like to say, we don't teach cases. We teach concepts. Yes, we teach concepts through cases. Hey, this is the Supreme Court said this and this, but a lot of things that cops do, they don't have a case right on point. I mean, go try finding a case for every situation you run to. It's very hard. But what we do have is best practices. What we do have is other cases that give us guidance. And my search and seizure class is all designed to, we do it by answering 4 questions. But when I say, hey, look, if you can answer these 4 questions, you will be able to make good case law. Because I'll also say, who in here wants to make case law? How many people do you think raise their hand?
No.
None, because they think case law is bad. Most case law is good, but you got to know when you're making bad case law. And that's what our goal here is. If you can answer these questions, you will make good case law. You will not do stuff like this. I can go on and on about other stuff that courts are hammering cops on, but that's the goal for us.
It's interesting, and this is the first time you and I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
But like I told you, we're partnered with Force Science, so they have, like Vaughn and Laura, both of which were in law enforcement prior to moving on to the legal side of things, just like yourself.
Yep.
There's kind of a commonality in speaking with you, and when I speak with them, guys like Pat Welsh too. Like there's all of this where you have functional experience in the role that you can now take, and when you move into law, it becomes more contextualized. So when you go to explain that to other officers, you can say, hey, no, this is how this is applicable, and they go, oh, I get it.
You're hitting it on the head here, because when they go to like my search and seizure class, they have expectations. If they've never been to our classes, they think it's going to be like a standard legal class, boring, dry, probably from a prosecutor who doesn't really want to be there, but it's probably just doing it for a favor of the chief. And they also think it's going to be like, just, hey, here's the latest cases. Any questions? Like Ben Stein, Ferris Bueller Day Off type of style. They come to our training and like, it's fun, and we're all retired cops here, so I like to say we speak cop. And that is the key, because even prosecutors, I love your prosecutors, and I train them too. I love you guys, but I got to tell you, a lot of them don't speak cop. They don't really understand what the cop is saying. Like, the cop will leave out some information, but we get it. I understand that you're thinking officer safety. You didn't say officer safety, but you're thinking, but Anthony, why can't we do it? Because they're thinking officer safety. And then what I do is I take what they say, because I know what they mean, and I say, okay, I think what you're looking at is this. Now here is a way to approach this. Maybe I have a solution for you, maybe I don't. The other thing that we never do at Blue to Gold is give them maybes. What we do, we try not to, right? As much as possible. What we do is give them, hey, based off of what you told me, this is what we would do. Do you see how powerful that is? You're a cop sitting in a classroom asking a prosecutor who has 30 years on the job, well, what do you think if I had this situation last week and, this is, what should we do? And I can't tell you how many times my friends say, I don't know, maybe. I'll have to deal with it when you give me the case. That is such a cheap shot. These cops are out there having to make a decision in 15 seconds. The prosecutor has 2 weeks and access to a computer with Westlaw, right? That's our database. And and if the prosecutor cannot make that decision, if they can't say something like, hey, look, I'm sure there'll be more facts, but based on what you're telling me and nothing more, this is what I would recommend. Go into the house, secure it, do a protective sweep, or don't go in it, you don't have exigency. That's what these cops need to hear. They need to, that's because they have to make those decisions. So that's what we're out there trying to give them more confidence in their decisions. We, as a final thought, our company did a huge nationwide survey, just finding out like, hey, what is going on? Like, what are your concerns and how can we help you? You know what the number one thing was? Just confused. They just are confused, you know, reasonable suspicion versus probable cause. They don't know when they can do this and do that. And I'm like, I got you. I was confused too. Or they're scared as well. They're scared of getting sued for mistakes like this, because a lot of cops that are watching this will say, but that's good faith. But Anthony, they didn't realize and I'm like, that's the problem. Good faith is not an excuse. It's objective reasonableness. Objective reasonable, that wasn't lawful. The cops should have known better. And our program gets them to that level where they can make confident, defensible decisions and not be so confused.
I love that, dude. I'm so glad you're here teaching that.
Thank
I do
you.
have one last question for you, though. Why do you come to ILEETA?
This is the world's best instructors. Also, I love the international flavor of this. I mean, I've been meeting people from around the world, correct? And, but I was so honored to be allowed to speak here, because, you know, we spoke about some of the people that you mentioned that have spoken, the Force Science guys, the Caliber Presses. They are the best in the business. And for me to even stand on a stage a little bit to the left and be able to send my message about legal survival and giving cops confidence is an honor. I wouldn't miss them for the world, and hopefully I'm going to be back next year.
Right on, brother. Well, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Stay
man.
safe.
Right on. That's easy.
Good. It was fun.